Hi folks, my name is Julian Samal. I'm an audio lead at Riot Games, leading voiceover audio development on League of Legends, and I appreciate y'all having me. Dialogue at Riot is a big topic, and I thought it could be valuable to dive into and unpack some of the unique quirks and challenges of developing a game that, 1, is a constantly changing live service experience, 2, has been live and actively developed for 11 years, 3, our roadmaps are packed with more content and complexity than ever before, and 4, League is a kind of grandparent game that scaled quickly from a scrappy startup to the large, multi-product, multimedia IP that it is today. I actually can't think of too many projects that fit this specific, unique subset, but if you do work on a title like this, it's a doozy. At Riot, we often mention the phrase building the airplane in the air in reference to the fact that in the early days, our infrastructure, development practices, and IP were moving so fast that it was often necessary to make decisions first and ask questions later to some extent. Even though these days we have the luxury of a much more methodical, strategic approach, this non-traditional foundation is still felt today and is very relevant to our VO, extending to our tech, tools, specifications, standards, consistency, IP, and more. So before you dive headlong into a beefy presentation without really knowing what this is all about, let's start off with a quick rundown of what exactly this talk will be covering. We'll start with a brief introduction of League's dialogue systems, goals, and environment so that we're all on the same page. We'll also touch on how we organize internally and what the scope of our work is. Next, we'll talk about how we use the idea of primary reads to help craft a compelling, resonant roster of characters, or champions as we call them, even as the game's cast gets larger and more complex. We'll also talk about how we shape and iterate on our VO through stages of development to hone it into the aspirational fantasy that ships. From there, we'll talk about considerations for what good looks like in the performance realm, and optimizing how our dialogue should play in the mixed space, inform players of relevant information, and underscore their high points. We'll also talk about being competitively minded and crafting VO for a complex game, specifically in the eSport space. After that, we'll get a little more DSP focused by talking about how we carve out an iconic sound for the voice through processing and sound effects. Then we'll move into leveraging and capitalizing on the unique opportunity space of each new champion and how we seek to synergize their identity, playstyle, and voice into one cohesive experience. And finally, we'll wrap up with some closing thoughts on supporting the future of Riot's VO within the world of Runeterra as we branch out. So, to kick things off, let's talk briefly about how our department works. Voiceover on League is a central group in the League audio discipline that serves various teams and initiatives across the business unit. This may include development of new characters, re-envisioning and rebooting old characters, developing premium skins and alternate universes, and developing VO for our auto battler, teamfight tactics, other non-traditional game modes, and pretty much any other product where someone opens their mouth. Our other responsibilities include driving technical improvements to push the envelope for VO systems surrounding quality, efficiency, sustainability, and optimization, working globally with internal and external teams, and leading all efforts toward a holistic, long-term vision of VO products and systems. We also facilitate and oversee quality across the global localization pipeline for all League dialogue to provide a high-quality, consistent voice experience in 17 languages across the world, with more on the horizon. So now let's get into the craft of it. To get up to speed, here's the TLDR for dialogue's role and application in League of Legends. Firstly, League's engine of success is its deep focus on competitive multiplayer and esports. At its core, it's a fast-paced, competitive MOBA with an immensely deep mastery curve that benefits from a clear, focused audio mix. To give you a sense of where the dialogue is experienced, games of League are usually played in an outdoor magical battlefield called Summoner's Rift, the environment of which consists of forests, rivers, fields, fountains, and ambient runic magic. Dialogue in League of Legends can be spoken at any time, both in and out of combat. At all times during the game, there is a bed of outdoor ambience and an orchestral musical underscore. Unlike cinematic dialogue, all VO in League has the potential to trigger in the fray of battle. With some rare exceptions, League usually does not have conversational dialogue. The VO fires in competitive gameplay and will fire with randomized or pseudo-randomized behavior within each specific bucket. And lastly, outside of special game modes, League is played with 10 champions, so there will be 9 other voices on the field at any given time. Riot has recently crossed an exciting threshold. We officially added the S to Riot Games with our release of Legends of Runeterra and Valorant, and we have much more in the works. The League IP is finding its way into many more genres, playstyles, and mediums for narrative expression. But for many years, it was just League of Legends the MOBA. Being uniquely positioned as the trunk of this sprawling tree is relevant to both our past and our future. Think about iconic characters we know from Marvel and DC IP. Through the years, generations, universes, and timelines, these beloved icons have been experienced in numerous mediums and portrayals. Yet, they're always recognizable as themselves. In much the same way, we want our players to feel that same resonance and affinity for champions across experiences. We don't want to damage the credibility and authenticity of our IP by being cavalier about their voice expression outside of League PC. There are many ways that we enforce and evangelize this across disciplines, but from a voiceover perspective, one of the core ways we seek to achieve this is through primary read. Aligning on and subsequently honing the primary read of each champion is our philosophy and razor for how we craft and tailor our roster. So what does primary read refer to specifically? Champions can be identified by their voices alone. We've carved out something truly unique in our roster. Their personalities and expressions distinguish them from other champions, and the clearer the read, the better the opportunity for global consistency across all our games and media. We want to position the universe of Runeterra as an iconic global IP, and if we are to do this, we must be clear about our character's expression. The benefits and importance of primary read is twofold though. Consistency and a true north across games and media is the first, but there's another one. Riot Games is inherently global. Players all over the world have fallen in love with our champions, and truthfully, North America and English, the original language in which these characters are written, is just a small subset of that audience. Without a clear primary read, you open the door to vastly divergent interpretations of the character across regions. Words can and must be adapted to the nuances of culture and language. To resist that would be a massive disservice. But that's exactly the beauty of primary read. It's not beholden to the notoriously fickle and fragile semantics of the words on the page. Rather, it's an anchoring point and North Star agnostic of language that keeps our VO expression consistent and resonant worldwide. If you're familiar at all with our roster of champions, you can probably think of some examples of champs with really visceral, powerful, and clear primary reads, as well as some that maybe aren't as strong, that you couldn't identify by their voice alone, or you're not really sure what their whole deal is, so to speak. Let's look at a champion we've recently reworked the visuals, art, and audio for, and how in its VO we sought to create a clearer primary read, make it more IP defensible, and overall a bolder experience for players. Its name is Fiddlesticks. For the first 10 years of League, Fiddlesticks was kind of a goofy scarecrow come to life. He looked like this, and he sounded like this.
Yes, my master. Are you afraid?
He even had a fun, silly clown skin called Surprise Party Fiddlesticks, though it didn't contain unique VO. It was fine, but through collaboration across disciplines, and I'm really giving a lot of credit to many of my talented coworkers here, we were able to re-envision Fiddlesticks into, well, this.
I'm lost. Won't anybody help me? The scarecrow took them all. Nobody left but me.
In this fantasy, Fiddle is an ancient ur-demon who has possessed farm equipment and other things into a loosely humanoid figure, and is trying to emulate humans through parroting back what his victims has said before he, murdered them. The primary read on all fronts is just so much clearer in new Fiddlesticks than old Fiddlesticks. Oh, and you know that clown skin I mentioned earlier? Yeah, that also got a full re-envisioning, and now it's this. Sorry in advance.
Hello, little boy. Are you afraid of clowns? Let's get this surprise party started. Send in the clown.
To shout out Kellen Goff, the voice actor for Fiddle, he did both base Fiddlesticks and the surprise party version you just heard. If that isn't range, I don't know what is. In recent years, we've instituted a practice specifically aimed at calibrating our success at hitting a primary read. Temp, or Scratch VO, is our first tangible deliverable for VO when crafting a new champion. This allows us to be scrappy, validate direction, and fail fast, so to speak. With very low cost, we can hack our lines into the game environment and playtest how it's feeling prior to making significant investments in script writing and casting. So this is naturally rough around the edges. It's inherently difficult but important at this stage to try and separate performance and voice print from the lines and the implementation, to the extent that you can. This isn't about performance yet. It's about getting a visceral gut feeling about how the lines are hitting you interactively in-engine. It provides valuable exposure to devs and stakeholders early in the process where there's still a lot of flexibility for exploration and iteration, and it also helps us keep an ear out for lines that are sticky and memorable. Lines that will really make players fall in love with and rally behind our characters. Like, I don't know.
I was hiding!
1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4.
Mother always said, don't lose.
By the time we head into casting, we look to be fully aligned on a common vision.